All right, everyone, couple big Nintendo stories we need to talk about today, starting with an update to a game that has been in the rumor mill speculation talk for far too long at this point. We are talking about Goldeneye 007 Remake / Remaster and what the real reason for the holdup is on this game. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with some interesting evidence that's been spotted online that has a lot of people wondering whether or not we are around the corner from some kind of big update to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, and we have to break down how credible at all this information is and whether or not we should be setting our expectations for some kind of official reveal from Nintendo around the corner. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, it's hard not to laugh through that intro. That's not a normal thing on the channel. Why it happened today, who knows? I have a lot of energy, but we have to jump into the two different stories that we have to discuss, and the first one has to do with the game that many of you are probably tired of hearing about at this point, myself included, because where is it at? Like, we've all been talking about Goldeneye and the ongoing rumors and speculation that really points to this game actually being in development. This isn't coming from just some kind of insider claiming that it's there and no real evidence. Like, not only are there insiders claiming that yes, this project is indeed pretty much done and ready to go, but in addition to that, we've had multiple points of evidence that show its existence, such as Rare developers straight up unlocking achievements for a Goldeneye, or a version of Goldeneye rather, that they are playing through that is different than the 2013 Xbox Live Arcade attempted remaster back in the day that apparently Nintendo, Microsoft, and MGM could not all come to agreement on. Well, we are now in a very different time with Nintendo and Microsoft's working relationship. We are also at the 60th anniversary of Goldeneye this year, and there's even been things like the ban lift in Germany, where somebody had to essentially pay money to get this game reviewed and re-looked at in Germany ahead of when it would have happened anyway, and you would do that if you were planning to relaunch the game in the modern era, because the European eShop for Nintendo is based out of Germany. I believe Microsoft has ties to that region as well. Regardless, you're going to want to sell it in all regions of the world. So there's a lot of things pointing to this game being in development, and the question is, when would it be revealed? Because a lot of the expectations, my own included, were that in the summertime window, when we expect the big showcases from both Microsoft, Nintendo, which of course we only got the third-party direct from Nintendo being the Direct Mini, but we still could have seen it show up there, because technically some kind of collaboration with Microsoft would fall into that category, although probably not, because Nintendo owning rights to the game, they may market it as part of a first-party decision, and whether or not we see it hit something like NSO or a standalone release is all a coin toss at this point. But when it wasn't at the Microsoft showcase, that was surprising, and then that obviously led to the next logical choice being something like the Nintendo Direct that we would have expected to hit in June. We don't know what Nintendo is doing for the rest of the year with their Direct presentations, to be fair. However, I do think that this could still be a surprise announcement standalone, but until we get to all of that, there are still questions being asked around. Yes, there is enough evidence. Many people do believe that this game is real, and it is just a matter of time until we see it released. And we have seen previous updates signifying that the real-life conflict between Russia and Ukraine is the reason for this holdup, as we have seen even Nintendo directly completely shelve a finished project that was ready to launch in April, being Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, due to the plot around that game obviously being centered around war, and it's a strategy style game, but it is ultimately, this is all fictional stuff at the end of the day. So regardless of your opinion on whether or not these games should be held back, that is of course the reason that we are most likely not seeing these acknowledged, these projects that are essentially ready to go just being put on hold, as we now have a new update from Mr. Jeff Grubb himself, who has been very vocal on this project over the course of time. Some people tend to put stock into what Grubb has to say, others don't. Regardless of that, there have been enough unannounced and unconfirmed projects that have been talked about from him over time that I tend to put some level of stock into what he talks about, especially being a gaming journalist in the industry for many years and years. And obviously, when you report on video games for your professional career, you are naturally going to make connections with developers, and you become friends with some of them, and that may be that kind of dinner table talk or just conference call talk that is not supposed to happen, but then ultimately does happen, and you gain insight to some unannounced projects. And it's not like he's just claiming this. This is also like, we literally had the achievements list appear on Microsoft's website, and we've, like, as I mentioned, have Rare developers actively unlocking them. So it's like, yes, there's something going on here, but the latest update was a response from Mr. Grubb himself when replying to a fan asking him what the holdup with this game is, and he says, Goldeneye is still in limbo because of the war. 1 vs 100's team lead left Microsoft. I don't know what that means for the game. Now, 1 vs 100 obviously being a totally separate project that Microsoft is working on that apparently does have a new team lead that was disclosed in a later Twitter thread at this point, but Goldeneye is what we're talking about here, as that's the one that has the heavy nostalgia for me, and just hearing an update like it is just straight up in limbo is really frustrating at this point, because of course, you know, we've had all of the smoke, rumor, and fires around it, and we also see things like the 60th anniversary year, and this just seems like the right time to release this game, especially if it's done and ready to go, and you have an agreement on the table with all of the party holders and the right holders for this game basically ready to sign off and release it, and you have a real world situation essentially just being the concern that they don't want to release it at this time in history. It is just a shame for gamers at the end of the day, and regardless of your opinion on what's going on with everything, it's just that's the situation we're in. We see it with Advance Wars 1+2. Nintendo's obviously a very strategic company when it comes to anything that could look bad on them on a PR front, and Microsoft is most likely the same way, and it could be that Nintendo's the only holdup in this party, or that both are on the same page with just delaying it until things hopefully calm down later on. Whether or not Nintendo just decides to eventually push out Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, as the latest rumors around that is signifying something like a December time slot release, just saying like, okay, we were gonna put it out this year, we're just gonna drop it in the last month, we've tried to be as sensitive as we can to the issue, and we're going to launch that this year regardless. That is also the scenario that we could potentially see Goldeneye fall into, just being that holiday remaster and something that launches towards the end of the year. It is, I am convinced at this point with everything we've seen, a real project. It is just a matter of when will this thing actually go to market, and also how will it go to market, because we don't know the level of intricacy to the remaster. Is this from the ground up in a new engine with next level HD textures and something that will be sold as a standalone remaster or remake on the Nintendo Switch and then also just launch on Game Pass for Xbox? Or is this something that is more akin to what we saw in 2013 with something like a graphics toggle on and off to see the older visuals versus the newer, but it definitely stays closer to that classic N64 gameplay, and then maybe we just see the non-remastered version launch in something like NSO with online multiplayer? Regardless, online multiplayer is going to be there, and in Goldeneye in 2022, for all of the generation that grew up with that game, you know how much nostalgia it has, you know how it laid the groundwork for what first-person shooters would ultimately become. And to be fair, me not even being a first-person shooter guy in the modern era, I am absolutely obsessed with Goldeneye, and I will play through the single-player campaign to completion 100% and enjoy every single minute. Then I will transition into online play and have fun with the same friends that I grew up playing that game with now today. So like, it's an exciting prospect for me to talk about this game once again. The frustrating part about this obviously though being that we are ultimately still in the dark with what's going on behind the scenes, and when, if at all, we will see Nintendo and Microsoft finally pull back the curtain and announce this thing. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What do you think about the ongoing situation with Goldeneye? Do you think it's in that same situation as Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, and that this real world conflict is indeed what is holding this thing back? Or do you think that for some reason, with all of the achievements we've seen unlocked, that it's just really not a project at all and they're not working on it, and maybe this game won't see the light of day? I definitely see some people in that camp at this point in time with how long it's been that we've been talking about it. But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything with Goldeneye, I do want to hear from you all and your hype levels and how you personally think they will ultimately release this title in the comments down below. Now, the other story we're talking about today has to do with Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack and some interesting evidence that's been spotted online that could be pointing to a big update to be revealed as soon as this week. We are talking about Wave 2 of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. As if you're not familiar, we are scheduled to be getting a new wave all the way taking us through Wave 6. That will close out at the end of 2023. And of course, there's just a logical timetable that would take you through that, being like every 4 months making the most sense. And as we've discussed on the channel previously, it was my expectation that because the first wave was announced and revealed at the February Nintendo Direct and launched the next month, that it would make the most logical sense for Nintendo to essentially tie these in how they did with the Smash character reveals and do one new wave reveal per Direct, then launch it the following month. If we would have had our standard June time E3 style Nintendo Direct in the summer, we would have expected the Wave 2 of this booster course to launch in July. Then we get that September Direct that they historically normally do, and the next wave is out in either October or November, something along those lines, in that rough timeline where each direct has that new wave reveal, and then just another month or two later at the most, we get that pack announcement. Well, now, of course, this year we are in an uncharted territory with Nintendo and how they are going about their reveals due to that big swerve that was not holding a traditional mainline direct. And while that's still on the table and some people are still expecting something to happen in July, it definitely could. I'm setting my expectations for, if we get any other type of first party direct before September, that it's something like a Splatoon 3 focused direct. But regardless of all of that, there is some interesting advertisements that have been popping up around Booster Course Pass Wave 1, and a interesting end date that you can even trace back to the same scenario happening with character reveals for Smash Bros DLC, as this was the same kind of advertisements that did point towards new characters that were yet to be announced. And the tweet that really got people talking about this was posted up over from Push Dustin on Twitter, where it says 7-Eleven is advertising the course pack. Note that it says you double the number of courses in Japanese. Nothing new about Wave 2. I think we should see a reveal sooner rather than later, and people have noticed that this ad is scheduled to run through the end of the week of July 17th, indicating that it will be taken down after that. And would you just replace it with what Wave 2 actually is revealed to be? That is definitely possible. You then have some interesting things that Nintendo just announced today, being a Mario Kart tournament taking place on July 22nd through the 24th, and then again on the 29th through the 31st. And you can look back at history, and roughly a week after the Wave 1 was dropped, we also had a Mario Kart tournament, leading the speculation to run wild around what's going on with this planned reveal, and it potentially dropping as soon as something like tomorrow. In addition to all of that, you also have the eShop listed for maintenance, specifically the use of downloadable software being highlighted as the section that will be worked on July 18th. So do we get the trailer reveal from Nintendo's Twitter this week, and then we see the announcement that is confirmed to be live on the following week on the 18th, at which point you can participate on that tournament with the brand new tracks? And clearly that's a genius way to get people bought back in and to boot up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again, the game that never stopped selling and that has the longest history of track record of like almost a live service game for a first party Nintendo title ever. And it's incredible the user base that this thing has. So it's like, I think a lot of things are pointing to this, and I also think it makes sense with the lack of announcements that we really know to expect from Nintendo. There's probably going to be some stuff happening around Splatoon 3 as we get closer to that. Definitely continued Xenoblade Chronicles 3 support as we get to its release, and then we know to expect things from the Pokemon Company in terms of new trailers around that. But I do think that this is the time window that you launch Wave 2, because you just have to do it sooner or later. And why would you jam pack one particular part of the year with multiple waves rather than just spacing them out to kind of like drip feed those updates as Nintendo historically does? So I personally am in the camp that I'm expecting some kind of announcement around Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass Wave 2 DLC as soon as this week. Maybe they just do a shadow drop announcement on something like next week on Monday, but I think it's more likely for them to put out the hype trailer. We'll talk about it here on the channel, discuss what tracks are actually unveiled. I'm hoping for plenty from Double Dash to be included in Wave 2, but regardless, I'm always happy to play through new Mario Kart tracks and just a reason to hop back into the game, because while I do want a new Mario Kart experience from the ground up in the future, this DLC is giving me reason to boot up again, play online again, and have some fun with one of my favorite all-time Nintendo franchises. So for me, I am happy for this. At the end of the day, it's $25 to purchase it all, or you get it as part of Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. So it is a good news scenario in my opinion, and I would personally temper my expectations towards some kind of announcement. While it's not guaranteed by any means, and this advertisement correlation may not be the thing to look to, and it's not guaranteed until Nintendo announces it, I still think with all of this popping up and it being the logical timeline you would expect it to be revealed anyway, I'm going to expect some kind of announcement soon. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, both the different stories we talked about today. How are you feeling about Goldeneye and the potential for its release, and how do you think we'll see it released on the Nintendo Switch, if at all? And definitely share with me whether or not you are anticipating Nintendo to announce Mario Kart Booster Course Pass Wave 2. What tracks are you hoping to see included in this wave, and then even future waves to come? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the weekend video next if you haven't already, where we walk down memory lane together, boot up the Nintendo Wii, play some of my all-time favorite Wii games, and have a broad conversation on whether or not we can ever expect Nintendo to bring something like the Wii library of games to Nintendo Switch Online. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.